Safari.
Hiya, so I thought I'd take a quick look at a jailbreak tweak called Auxo 2. This is one of the bigger tweaks of this year for iOS 7, so I thought I'd take a look from an accessibility point of view. So there's three main parts to this tweak. I'll just go into settings here.
Settings.
To show you the settings panel for this tweak.
Bio lockdown. Auxo 2. Settings. Back button.
So the three different parts can be enabled or disabled individually. So the first one is MultiCenter.
MultiCenter. On.
And what that does is that merges your control center and your app switcher into the one screen.
Merge multitasking and quick switcher. On.
The next one is Quick Switcher, which is an alternative way to switch between apps quickly.
Hot corners. On.
And if you've got hot corners turned on, you also have the ability to close apps with a gesture, with a swipe up gesture, rather than pressing the home button. So they're the three parts of this tweak.
Home. Settings.
First, I'm going to show how it's supposed to work by turning VoiceOver off.
VoiceOver off.
So now if I swipe up from the bottom of the screen, which is how a non-VoiceOver user would normally bring up the control center, or if you double tap on the home button, which is how you'd normally open the app switcher, both of those now will bring up the multi-center instead. And this is it. And so what we have here is the control center in two parts. So there's a strap along the top of the screen and a strap along the bottom of the screen with the various components of the control center. And then the majority of the screen in the center is the app switcher. Okay, now we have the alternative app switcher, the quick switcher. That's activated by swiping up from the bottom left-hand corner of the screen and then keeping your finger on the screen and just sliding your finger towards the right. So swipe up from the bottom left, keep your finger on the screen and move your finger across until you get to the app that you want, and then you release your finger. So I'll just demonstrate that now. So now I've swiped my finger up from the bottom left, my finger is still on the screen, and now if I move my finger right, it's going through the various cards for the different apps that I currently have open. And when I get to one that I want to open, I release my finger and I'm in that app. So supposedly this is a quicker way of using the app switcher. And then the quick closing of apps is the other option. So if I swipe up from the bottom right corner of the screen, a little bit like Zephyr on iOS 6, that'll close the app without having to press the home button. So that's how the tweak should work, and does work for non-VoiceOver users. But if I put VoiceOver back on,
VoiceOver on.
Now if I swipe up from the bottom left, nothing. Swipe up from anywhere, in fact, the gestures just don't work. I don't actually think this is the fault of the developers, because some other gesture-based tweaks on iOS 7 have had problems as well. So I think it's more something to do with how Apple has made changes to how VoiceOver works, perhaps. That is causing these gestures not to work for us with VoiceOver, unfortunately. So what that means is the only part of this tweak we can use as VoiceOver users is the multi-center, which you can get to either by opening the control center gesture, which was to put focus on the status bar and swipe up with 3 fingers, or to press the home button twice.
1557. Status bar item.
Normally would just open the app switcher, obviously. So both of those now will take us into the multi-center.
Top of screen. App switcher. AirDrop. Button.
So as I said, we've got a strap along the top of the screen where we've got AirDrop and our toggles, such as, turning Bluetooth on and off, Wi-Fi on and off, so on.
AirDrop. Button. Hotspot. Off. Wi-Fi. Off. Bluetooth. On. Do not disturb. On. Button.
So those toggles are now at the very top of the screen. And then at the very bottom of the screen, we have our media controls and our quick shortcuts for flashlight and the calculator and so on. So first, unfortunately, some of these, though, are not labelled, the media controls.
Menu. Button. TV guide. Running. Settings. Track position. 0 seconds. 0 seconds.
So we have the track position.
Menu. Button. Menu. Button. Menu. Button.
But those buttons are not actually labelled. And if you want to get to the calculator and the flashlight and so on, you put focus on the media controls and then do a 3-finger swipe up.
Menu. Button. Page 2 of 2. Menu. Button. Menu. Button. Clock. Button. Calculator. Button. Camera. Button.
And those
clock. Flashlight. Off. Button.
Will show up at the very bottom of the screen. So that's how you get to those. So that's basically Auxo 2 in a nutshell for VoiceOver users is we have just the MultiCenter section, and as you can see, it's not fully accessible. The media control buttons are not labeled. The volume and the brightness sliders are also completely invisible to VoiceOver. So whether this tweak is actually worth it to us as VoiceOver users is pretty questionable, to be honest. But if you think it is, if you like the idea of having your app switcher and your control center in the one screen, you might decide that it's worth it. The cost of this tweak is $2.99, and if you had a Auxo 1, the previous version on iOS 6, then you do get that for $1.99 instead. So that is Auxo 2 with VoiceOver. Thanks for watching.